Hey guys, Dark Skeleton here, and I was kind of screwing around in Hearthstone with what I call a early Paladin deck, which is basically just a Paladin that tries to throw a ton of stuff out on the board. They're probably vulnerable to AoE, kind of the Paladin equivalent of a Zoo deck, and probably nowhere near as viable. Although I have seen similar decks work pretty decently, and with the addition of Solemn Vigil, which I don't actually have in my collection, I do imagine that these kind of decks may be a little bit more viable than they used to be. Generally, you would run things like Blessing of Might if you were going heavy aggro, and possibly a Divine Favor, but I'm not sure if I had one in there or not. So anyway, it's a Paladin versus Mage matchup. You see, I did include a couple secrets. The Noble Sacrifice secret is actually not too bad, because what you can do with Noble Sacrifice is put it out on the field on turn 1. If they coin something out and attack in with it on turn 2, then hey, they have already lost a 3-2. And in a lot of ways, it's sort of like putting a zombie chow out on the field on turn 1, just without the downside of giving them 5 HP back. And then, of course, it's also got synergy with Knife Juggler, which makes it kind of similar to having a Snake Trap, though arguably not quite as good, in most cases anyway. So being an aggressive deck, it's going to be between the Knife Juggler and the Shielded Minibot. That much is pretty obvious. You've basically got to dump your hand with this deck. You'll notice that I did put Cult Master in here. When you play decks like this, you have basically two options. One is to go all face, kind of like playing a face hunter, which, if I recall, other decks like this kind of play more that style when it's Paladin. A lot like playing a face hunter. Like, okay, you have a Divine Shield, then you put Blessing of Might on it. You just ram it into the face, try to put as much damage as possible. You don't really do so much with the Cult Master play, though it's possible as another option. So we're going to drop the Knife Juggler here, throw down the second secret, which is Avenge, a card that, outside of Arena, basically nobody plays. So you can see how experimental this deck is. It's just, hey, it was the beginning of the season, screwing around. Yeah, it's not a bad card, it's just, can you fit it into any deck that makes it good enough to play? And it's kind of a secret that people would expect to. Like, if they already check for your Noble Sacrifice, they check for, well, they wouldn't be able to check for Redemption, but if they check for Noble Sacrifice, I'd say 9 times out of 10 they just assume, oh, well, it's probably Avenge then, because Redemption and Repentance, those don't really get played at all. So you'll notice here I did put out the Cult Master, just blank put out the Cult Master and not make trades, which is extremely strange, and I think if he was really thinking about it, he would have realized, hey, this guy's probably got a Noble Sacrifice, so even if you attack in with the Shredder, it's going to be painful. You're going to give me a card, the Shredder's going to take 2 damage, not even kill its intended target. It's just not going to be that great. So he takes the bait, interestingly going for the Shielded Minibot instead of the Cult Master, which probably shows how, inexperienced of a player he is. Just because, like, you don't leave a Cult Master alive. I get the idea you want to get maximum value out of that trade, but your goal here against an aggressive deck should be to deny me as much card draw as possible, because if I get the card draw I need, then I'm just going to keep pushing forward, pushing for damage until you're dead. I do get hit up with that Cone of Cold, though, and you see that just absolutely decimated my aggression here. If he had, say, a Blood Mage Thalnos and then followed that up with Arcane Explosion, against a field like this, I would have lost immediately. This deck that I put together, it's not very sticky, and that's a huge problem when you're even trying to play these aggressive decks like Mech Rogue. Well, not so much Zoo, because Zoo is sticky. Face Hunter to a degree, although Face Hunter has some stickiness. But if you try any aggressive deck that doesn't have the stickiness, then one AoE, one Holy Nova, even like a Shadow Madness in many cases, and it's just over. And that's why outside of decks like Zoo and Face Hunter, it doesn't really work that well. Although I will add that Flamewaker Mage has become a serious thing. That's probably old news at this point, but like there are so many Legend players, Legend streamers using the Flamewaker deck, and I do see it on the ladder. Although it does seem like a lot of people are still kind of figuring that deck out. So one thing I will say about this board state is that he's got a Voodoo Doctor, and anytime you see a Voodoo Doctor, you basically know you're dealing with a newer player, so it's pretty much expected he would have lost this match. But you kind of get the idea here, though. As a Paladin, it's really easy to just go aggressive and flood your board with minis, especially with that hero power, with Muster for Battle and Quartermaster. Even guys like Argent Protector, which reduce the attack of your enemies, it just makes it really hard to control a Paladin from getting out of control, just like a Zoo deck. And then if you're able to top all that off with something ridiculous, like an Enhancer Mechano, which gives you like 4 Divine Shields, 3 Wind Furies, you know, everything you need to win the game, then it's just over. The thing is, this deck is not really that great, because 1 AoE, and it's over! Yay! So I've been Dark Skeleton. If you want to make a pledge to the Patreon, it's patreon.com/darkskeleton, and I'll see you all next time.